Hey, good evening, guys. My name is Larry Godwin with National High School Football or nationalhsfb.com. Welcome back to the program. Hey, listen, it's been a while since we've done one of these interviews, and we're back in the saddle with my counterpart, Joe Maimone from Prep Gridiron Logistics. How are you, Joe?
I'm doing great, Larry. Great to see you.
Yeah, what we're doing here tonight is we've got Coach Messay Hailemariam with the St. Francis Academy. And these guys, Joe, when you called me the other day and said that there's these two Goliaths playing, but St. Francis is an underdog, and they slayed the giant called IMG Academy, I was honestly surprised. Were you as surprised? Now I already know what you're going to say. I already know what you're going to say. But were you kind of pleasantly surprised at how well your guys played?
Yeah, I mean, thank you for having me again. But I'll be honest with you, the way the young men played in the beginning of the year and the kind of strenuous schedule that they face each and every year, playing at home, I knew that their energy was going to be unreal.
Yeah.
And that really was a breath of fresh air that we didn't have to travel and just be in a foreign place. So was I pleasantly surprised? You always want to be in position to win, but to win in the score that we did, that was a good surprise for me.
Yeah.
Sure.
So
But
Larry, I don't know if you're familiar with this or you looked into it yourself with your research. Before the IMG game, St. Francis had played nine straight away games.
Yeah.
So that was their first home game at the first home game in 10 weeks.
absolutely.
I
So
can't remember, Joe. I can't remember which of the news organizations called them this, but I think they called them America's Road Warrior or
yeah.
something like that.
Hey, Coach, have you ever tallied up this year? I know somebody like Max Preps might have done it last year. Have you tallied up how much air miles you've gone this year? Did anybody?
Eight, yes, they did 18,000 miles
18,000 miles so far for
for
high school football team.
I was just about to say, even the pros or even college
Yeah,
hasn't traveled as much. There's only one team in the country in football that's traveled more than we have is Hawaii, University
University
of
of
Hawaii.
Hawaii. Yep.
Woo!
Yes, but
So
outside of that, to endure that type of travel and commitment, no wonder why they felt so good to be at home. And
Yeah.
look, they
yeah,
felt like they were just in heaven by not having to get up at
yep.
3 in the morning to catch a plane and then having to get on a bus. So, like I said, it was a pleasant surprise only because you draw it up and you hope that you can get the victory you did the way it came out, but for them to shut them out from scoring as a defense, even though I believe in our guys, I was thinking it might be a shootout or it's going to be a close game, and they did a tremendous job. All three phases were amazing for us. We scored on defense. We did really well controlling the ball on offense, and special teams was amazing. We had a field goal kick, and that's what you asked for. And I've always said at the high school level, if you have a chance and your special teams is pretty solid against teams like an IMG, that you have a shot to beat them.
Yeah. So, Coach, I mean, let's look at the numbers again. So you held IMG to 3 points.
Hmm.
They scored first, and you rattled off 30 unanswered. So that's never been done in their short history of being an elite high school football program. The last three times you played, that margin of victory, the average was about 8 points a game. So they're close games in the last 3 years. Going into the week of that game? Can you feel it on the practice field? Was the vibe just like better than it had been the prior 9 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, this whole season I felt really good about every game that we played, um, and I wasn't surprised. But like you said, there was a feeling that was a little different this particular week because those games that we lost in that stretch earlier in the season against the gauntlet of programs, we were just waiting, chopping at the bits to play a national program and then to do it at home and to play at Morgan State where it's in Baltimore.
Yeah,
I felt this was just I felt the same thing I did the last time we beat them when we were at home. And that was at Morgan State when Blake Corum and those
I
guys.
remember. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was
So
Larry. Last time they played IMG at Morgan State University,
Yeah.
they beat them 35-7. That was Blake Corum's senior year, Coach.
that is correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's the same feeling I had, and I can feel that type of energy. And my coaches, my coordinators, both my offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator, both felt really good about the game plan, what we were doing. So
Yeah.
did I, and I thought that we matched up really well with them. And like you said, but I never, you dream and
Yeah.
you hope to execute the way we did, but you know, we had a good feeling as a program, and the kids were super
And
confident.
coach, you guys said it. You said you executed, but as I know you couldn't be happy with the amount of penalties that were called against you, or that you beat them by 27. What do you have? 12, 14 penalties?
16 penalties
Woo,
at
We had
home.
wow.
16 penalties and you still beat them by 27. That's unbelievable.
You know, at one point this year, we actually played in a game where it was 22 penalties to zero. So tell me about any high school team in the United States that gets zero penalties. I mean, even NFL
Now
doesn't
we
do it.
know
So
we know in
yeah,
the world of high school football, when an out-of-state team comes to town, there's going to be some questionable calls. We've talked about it. In my opinion, I know I set these games up hundreds a year. I know there are places where I will not allow my clients to go to. I'm
I,
not going to embarrass these people on this broadcast. I'm not going to name them, but we all know there's a reason a lot of teams have 8 or 10 home games, because
Yeah.
nobody because they know that it's a guaranteed win basically with their crooked officials. So but now you guys overcame. Let's talk about the 2024 season. I mean, let's go through it. I mean, I'm looking at it right here in front of me. You started in the Northeast, a couple places that you could bus to. You started in Pittsburgh Central Catholic, took care of business there. Following weekend, I saw you live right by my home. You visited St. Joe's Montvale. That was a tough game. They were up at half, right? Remember,
absolutely.
they were up to, what was it, 21-17 at half, something like
Yes,
that.
they were. Yep.
Yeah, and you shut them out and you beat them 31-21, and then you go on the road. You go to California. You play Orange Lutheran. You lose 15-13. Let's talk about that game. You remember they're doing really well this year. They're a top 10 team also. They were up on St. John Bosco by about, I don't know, 14, 17 points, and Bosco came back and beat them. So tell us about that experience, the Olu experience.
So, I mean, you know, one of the things you always know is playing in the CIF in that conference, there's no team that's not as good. You know, facing Mater Dei, St. Joe Bosco, Corona, like we mentioned, those programs understand the level of football it takes to compete. And I was proud of our guys. I mean, considering how dominant we were on offense, we just couldn't stop from turning
No,
the ball over. My
yeah,
running backs were fumbling. It was turnover city.
yeah.
And even in that game, we were actually driving. It was 15-13. We were inside the 25-yard line, and we were getting ready to go and score and hopefully get the victory. We had another turnover. So,
Mhm.
but I knew then, okay, there's something about this team that's pretty good. So I was hoping that, you know, we can kind of clean up the turnover scare. And it took us a little bit to get that out of our system and find a niche in terms of our, solid, strong quarterback play.
Yep.
And that those 3 games, we played really at a high level that you were talking about first at California, but we quite didn't have the strong, solid play from my as quarterbacks, and it was,
Yep.
a lot of players played. I had 3 quarterbacks that played in all 3 games,
Right. Right.
and you know as well as I do, when your signal caller is not consistently there, it could really hurt, especially against teams like Orange Lutheran
Right.
or Mater Dei or Duncanville.
Yep. So the next week you go to Duncanville. You're leading the game. There's 120 seconds left in the game, and you're up. And then they have a great quarterback, Alabama bound, and they got a great receiver. Tell us about that experience in Duncanville in
Man,
general.
Texas football in general. Last time we went, we were facing DeSoto, and I know the tradition behind Texas.
Mhm.
So I was really proud of how we played again and again. Having the lead against a Duncanville, number 3 team in the country, with that much time left, but you got to put them away. You can't
Yeah.
have a one-score game, and there's always that potential with a player like that, the kid that's going in.
Yeah.
They can strike at any moment. As good as our defense was, you can't be in a position where teams like that will find a way to win. And that
Right.
quarterback, man, he got out of 3 or 4
Yeah.
times where
If
we
if
had him in
if, if
sacks.
that's any
Yeah.
other quarterback coach, you probably had 8 sacks that game.
Yes.
But he was able to maneuver his way out of every opportunity you guys had your hands on him. He got away, ran the ball, threw the ball. He was the difference in that game. He really was.
I mean, look at I'll bring you a prime example, Jay Daniels. When you allow quarterbacks to extend plays like that, regardless how talented you might be, when you don't get that sack, they create havoc. So you're
Yeah.
talking about, even if you're covering really well, if you're playing solid defense, a player like him creates, and
Mhm.
then they just don't hurt you by getting a first down. They hurt you by getting a touchdown, like the way
Right.
he did at the end of that game. So, but again, what I'm proud of most about our guys is that's a time where most, or an average high school program, might be so frustrated they'll tap in. But my kids, our program coaches, it continue to motivate us. And then of course the following week, Joe, we
Following
go to
week at Matter Day, number one. Tell us about that experience. Again, remember, they came to you last year. It was a very close game. You held them. They didn't have an offensive touchdown. They scored their first offensive touchdown of the game last year with 90 seconds left in the game.
Yes, and the two touchdowns we did give up was a pick six and then
Yep.
a fumble recovery
Yep.
that they picked up and scored.
So how
And
is
was
how
for,
is this year? Obviously, Mater Day is a consensus number one right now, and all 9 national polls they're number one. What's the difference between them and Duncanville?
So look, talent level, when you look at them, they don't look menacing. They look average at best. And this always goes back to Bryce Young every time we face them. But from what they've done to that program, I always tell our kids and myself and our coaches, we want to measure ourselves on not just being a great team, but an amazing program. So you have to create a culture, a winning attitude. And regardless what you look like, that program has been built. So they've had 3 different head coaches in the last 3 years,
Mhm.
although Bruce did a good job, and then his longtime assistant was the gentleman that took over, and then this kid. But they're so strong that they're able to win and put themselves in position to win because their program is built the right way, and it's extremely effective, and they're just going to be consistently good and not occasionally great.
Yeah, and coach,
So
if you look at those 3 games, the middle of the season, you started 2-0, then you lost those 3. All those 3 teams, Lutheran, Duncanville, Mater Dei, have outstanding quarterbacks.
Coach,
a- yes,
when
go ahead.
it's one thing to tell your kids that you're building this culture and you're comparing them to modern day things like that, but they're still kids and they just had 3 losses in a row, albeit they were pretty close losses. How do you get them to refocus back? Because now the next week you bounce right back and you've been winning ever since. And that leads us kind of into tonight's discussion with a huge win over number 5 ranked IMG. So, but after that third straight loss to Mater Dei, how did you get your kids to focus? Because you talk a lot about building culture. I've heard you say that before. So I'm thinking your part of your answers is centered around that. But tell us how you get your kids to refocus after 3 heartbreaking losses in a row like that.
Because we our program is created to run towards the fire, not from it. So we have the mentality of, when you're playing against programs and teams like that across the country, the real victories and the platform that they have, and the competitive environment and the ability to be able to recover the following week, and allow themselves to know that the sun will come up the next day. What are you going to do to make sure that we're prepared not to lose again? So we do it in tiers. You have a gauntlet of a schedule like that early as a high school program. What I tell them every day is, there is no, moral victory. There is no prize for second. But I promise you this, I don't see any team that has that level of intense scheduling that we have, and not only do it, but do it on the road.
Yeah.
So I always tell them, look, the first half of the season, this is what we went through. Now it's time to make the run, and then we prepare for the end. And the teams that we're going up against are talented and strong. But if we, again, consistently good and not occasionally great, and create that mentality of, we're not tapping out. We have the grit. We don't have the stadium. We don't have the field. We don't have the things everybody else. So I always consider us an underdog. And each program, I mean, each team that's there each year, I tell them, be proud of the fact that we're St. Francis Panthers, but we always come from the mud. We always are the underdog. So hey, the only reason why any situation is a loss is if we quit. Instead of calling it a loss, we call it a lesson, which
Yep.
is 2 different L's. And those lessons carry over to the next week. And if the games were blowouts, it's one thing, right? But when they're so competitive, yeah, you're right, they're kids. But we teach them that you're capable of beating anybody in the country. So take it each week at a time, and that's what they did. Find a way to consistently be good. And then we started getting solid play from our quarterback that we brought in named Jayon Williams, who saw flashes of of his potential. And when we get that type of play, the rest of the pieces start falling into place, and we make that run in the way we did, and then led to that IMG
Hey,
game.
Coach, remind me again, because I know you were playing a couple of quarterbacks in every game to start the season. When did you tell yourself or your staff, we're gonna go with QB number 2 versus Tristan? That was the starter at the beginning of the season.
So we were having issues all the way to St. Thomas More. I told all three of them, look, each of you going to get a quarter, and then whoever has the hot hand is going to finish at St. Thomas More.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, in that game, even though Jayon started, Tristan had the hot hand,
Mm-hmm.
and he had a tremendous second half when he got in against St. Thomas More. But then the following week, we struggled a little bit, and I brought Jayon in, and he just blew it out the water.
Yeah.
And he was consistent with it. And Tristan is still a great player. He's just young.
He is.
Jayon's a junior, and Tristan is extremely talented.
Yeah.
So we're gonna find a way to make sure that you continue to grow and groom each and every one of them, but they can maximize this platform potential because it's long seasons. When Jayon earned it, he kept it. And the thing about St. Francis, it's almost similar to what a college program is. Nothing is promised. It's always earned, and there's always a chance to continue to kind of build. There's no favoritism. The best will play. If you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, or senior, you're going to have to earn that time. But quarterback is not as easy to say that to you. You're going to have a guy, right? And he actually, Jayon did a tremendous job, and we felt really good about it, and it was consensus of coaching staff. But I felt that he earned, and he showed how tough and capable he was all the way up until IMG.
And
He made
you were
some,
spoiled. You were spoiled the last 3 years with having Michael Van Buren, who's starting now for Mississippi State as a freshman.
yeah, I mean, when you go from that, and Tristan, like I said, is a good, talented guy, but he's still young.
Mm-hmm.
Mike had a chance to transition. I had John Griffith
Yep,
with him, and John was 38-2 as a starter for St. Francis.
Right.
So
and didn't he get hurt? And Michael came in against De La Salle and threw for like 400 yards.
Broke that. Remember, he had 4 touchdowns and tied Matt Liner's record against
Yeah.
an amazing stage on ESPN. So, like I said, that's exactly what happens. Wally Pitt, nobody knows Wally Pitt because in the Yankees, Lou Gehrig ended up replacing him, but Wally Pitt was the starter. When he got hurt, Lou Gehrig came in, and guess what? You never heard about Wally Pitt. So that happens, and St. Francis is that type of program that has capable players that can come in and step in. But Jayon did a great job, but he also had an amazing support staff, and that old line was unreal all year, man. We literally we were averaging 250, 300 yards a game, all the way from game one to the last one in rushing. And when you can do that at any level, but definitely at the high school level, you have a shot to win any game.
Yeah.
Joe, listen, man. One of the reasons, Coach, one of the reasons I love doing this this podcast stuff with Joe is when we get you guys on here, and y'all are some of the best head coaches in the country. Joe, when we have these guys on here, I always learn a lot from these guys, but I always end up writing down quotes from these guys. I don't know where they get them from. I don't know if there's a coach's book of quotes or whatever, whether it's Trent Dilfer or Bruce Rollison or Messay Hailemariam. I always come away with one quote. I wrote down what you said a while ago, Coach. Consistently good and not occasionally great. Is that something that you preach to your players a lot?
Yeah, we do. My offensive coordinator, Ryan Burbrink, who played at the Math and then played for
Bowling
Clawson
Green.
and,
Didn't he
and
go to
Bowling
Bowling
Green. For,
Green?
yeah, he played for Clawson. He was a walk-on, and then Dino Babers.
Uh-huh.
And that's something he'd always preach. Look, I'd rather have you guys be consistently good than occasionally great. And I loved it. So we collectively as a staff, we come up with that, and it becomes a niche for us.
Yeah,
And
I love
when
it.
we teach these young people to be that way, then they have a chance. There's one other one that our tagline, and God allowed me to get this one, and remember this one. I always say we do a great job of developing protectors and providers, not pretenders and takers. So and when you create young men to become men, ultimately become amazing husbands and fathers, which is the protectors and providers, instead of what society sometimes does to them now, pretenders and takers because of social media,
Yeah.
then again, that's the core value why we play team sports, why we make sure that they go through the gauntlet of having to face tough opponents every week, because then you prepare them for when you have to pay bills, when you might struggle and life might not be as good that day. we always know that there's hope the next morning. The sun comes up, you get to start over again. You just, as long as you don't quit. So, and that's St. Francis, man. I mean, it has been that way for us as a program, that way as a school. The founder of our school, Mother Mary Lang, she had the vision and mission to teach children of slaves how to read and write when no one told them they could. So how can I say I'm taking over, I'm in this program, and not reference Elizabeth Mother Mary Lang,
Yeah.
that were fighting for people's lives and risking her own, and I can't get these guys to become amazing student athletes so they can get themselves right in life.
Yeah, I can't wait. In 4 years, Larry, it's going to be the school's 200th anniversary.
Ooh, wow.
Yes.
The school opened in 1828.
Well, I just heard Coach say the sun will come out tomorrow. Coach, now you got to sing us a tune or two. That song, the sun will come out tomorrow. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
No, it's the truth. I mean, think about it. As men, every day we get up, right? As family men, our day we get up and we have the ideal situation how life's gonna go.
Yeah.
But there's curveballs. There's so many things. What we can't do is allow that to linger and make it so we carry it over to the next day. We just know we got to go to bed, and then we're gonna get a good night rest. And God, guess what He does? Is a beautiful thing. Is the sun comes up again. It's a fresh day, so we have to have a different perspective, and our fight has to be tougher and grittier than the day before. So that's what we take that concept at St. Francis on a
Yeah.
day-to-day basis.
So, this game was covered by just about everybody in the high school football world. It was written about by CBS Sports, Sports Illustrated. MSN did a piece on it. I'm sure our friend Zach Poff at Max Preps had you on his radar. Your matchup with IMG Academy was billed as a national heavyweight showdown. Okay. So, and then you defeat the Giant 30-3. So this was a huge win for your program. So this is a two-part question. One, did you consider St. Francis an underdog going into this game? And if so, what did you tell your players? Did they embrace that role, or did you tell them we're not underdogs, we expect to win?
As a head coach and as a guy that loves sports and that's been a walk on with myself and my two coordinators, we always build ourselves an underdog, a chip on our shoulder.
Okay.
And then when you compare resources, it's a little bit different than the
Sure.
average high school that plays in the private school ranks. But at the same time, I made the mistake as a head coach a few years ago when we came undefeated. We were undefeated going into the IMG game, and they beat us down at University of Maryland. And I felt like the whole week we kind of thought we were the team, we were the stuff, and they couldn't beat us, and we were just going to walk in and we were going to take IMG's heart because we had won 2 in a row from them.
Yeah.
And I will never forget how that tasted, how that felt.
Mhm.
And then last year again, we were gritty. We had a tough year, but they fought their tails off. We still lost 17-14. So a team like IMG or anybody else, I just don't want to take it for granted. I didn't want it to be an influx of media at that IMG game. Destroying was there, a whole rack of media. I was cutting everybody off this time. I was trying to make our sidelines as bare as possible so we can talk about and think about football, not photography, not videographers, none of that hoopla. So I was a little, I had the short man complex and I was angry and mad. And I didn't want our kids to take their foot off the gas or think that they're anybody's favorite. So
Yeah.
yes, the mentality is we're underdogs every day we get up out of bed. And it's a true underdog. And I don't mean with the talent we have, but the resources sometimes we don't have.
Gotcha.
And then we maximize it by, and I say this all the time, but sometimes people neglect it. This platform offers you a chance to go get educated for free. And as these games are an opportunity to showcase who and what you capable of doing on the field so you can go get an education for free. And that thought process is a little different than maybe somebody that might have everything or possibly could go to college even if they didn't get a scholarship
That's right.
through sports. So, that's the mentality, that's the thought process. And so that always has a chip on the shoulders of my guys. I don't care where you come from. We're all together and we're all got a common goal. And we're going to beat any powerhouse that we feel is got a lot more than we do.
Hey, Coach, let's talk about the numbers when it comes to players in college. In my opinion, if your program over the last 5 years isn't the top at sending kids to D1 colleges, you're definitely in the top 3. Let's rattle off some numbers about how many players have come through the program that not only went to college but got master's degrees, and even I know you have 5 or 6 that are in the NFL right now.
Yeah, so the most amazing thing is when it's become that national, it's actually been 6 years. 172 have taken advantage of getting an education paid for fully the last 6 years. 47 of them, because we have a dual enrollment program in our school with University of Baltimore, where they start taking college level classes starting their sophomore year. They accumulate some credits prior to leaving, plus they only enroll. So they go into college with 12, and then that semester they get an extra 12 before they enroll in their summers their freshman year. You're talking about 47 have their masters while they're in college and while they're playing eligible, and 20 have their second masters. And then we have our original quarterback from 2016, Isaiah Robinson, who got his NBA. Not only getting his masters, he took advantage of the COVID year plus the years that he's been in college to get not only his undergraduate, his masters, but he got an NBA now. So I don't know who can beat that. And then, like Joe mentioned, we have Chris Braswell, Blake Corum, Gary Brightwell, Trey Avery, Jalen Duncan, Kingsley Jonathan, and these guys play in the National Football League, and their teams: Tampa Bay Rams, 2 on the Tennessee Titans, 1 on the Buffalo Bills, and of course Dalcourt with the Ravens. So, I mean, and then the next couple of years, even going to be more that are going to play on Sundays, and that's the culmination of all the hard work and the sacrifice. And when you do that consistently,
Mm-hmm.
the results exactly what came that are coming right now for these young people.
Yep.
Coach, I was reading this article written in Sports Illustrated that covered this game, and the author said there was 5 things to watch for. Some of them were pretty obvious for him to say. The first one, like for example, he said the team that dominates the trenches will win, and that's typically for any high school football game. But it looks like it really was a feature of this game. And the guys that you had up front, whether it's the offense or defensive lines, really did an outstanding job. Tell us some of the players that we should be able to look for, maybe at the next level, that you expect to really, really excel.
I mean, there's so many of them on our roster, but definitely
Yeah.
in the trenches. Let's start with the offensive line. Our center guard, Brett Miller, he's amazing, and he has 7, 8. Then our guards are John Watkins and Marcus Dillard. They're 2026s.
Hmm.
They're going to be amazing. They have a slew of Power 5 offers. And then our tackles, Ed Baker, Makai Kusar, they're good. And then on defensive side, we have a Tennessee commit, Darion Smith, who was unbelievable, was electric. He picked up a fumble, went 80 yards. He came in as a running back, and he was that freaky, like almost like Aaron Donald. We had to talk him into becoming a 3 technique. And
Wow.
yes, and every kid wants to hand off to play running back or receiver, but when you start to teach them how it's going to benefit them, and then Roy, Jaden Travers, he's a sophomore defensive tackle. He's got hell of offers. And then Zion Ely, our edge guy, is the #1 player in the 26 class. And then, of course, there's young Alex Taylor. These are all guys that we just, when you're talking about the IMG offensive line, that's so big. I mean, our guys really did a tremendous job, and my defensive coordinator and the defensive coaches schemed it up real well. And it doesn't hurt to have players like Jaira Edwards,
Yeah.
Byron Baldwin, Blake Woodby, Raylon Henry. I mean, I could continue to give Bryce Diaz, who's going to
Yeah.
Auburn. I mean, these guys are capable, but we also have to develop them to be ready and to play against a talent or a group like IMG. And I'm so proud of Wayne Henry, who had a pick 6,
Hmm.
and he's like Buda Baker. He's so small. Nobody ever thought when he first got here. He actually didn't have a scholarship. He was a wrestler. He's the one that had to pick 6, went 80 yards. He plays safety. He's an Auburn commit.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, and then I can't even imagine telling you the guys that are coming off the bench that are amazing younger players. So I'm really proud of them, and I'm really proud of the fact that they'll have a shot to go to college. That's the biggest priority for us. But some of them have a chance to play on Sundays. It's a
Yeah.
matter of finding the right place and then developing the right way and avoiding injuries, any major injuries.
Hey, Larry, I just sent you a photo. If you can, put it on the screen and we'll talk about it when and if you can do that. Coach, let's talk about the future of SFA. every state, most states right now are getting involved on the high school level with NIL. It would appear to me, because of all the great athletes you have year in and year out, and the great program in general, that NIL could be, if it isn't already, in the future. What's the future of the program right now, whether it's NIL or just, do you think you're going to stay independent? Has anybody, has the MIA figured out that they made a huge mistake and offered you back anything? Tell us what you're thinking and what your goals are for the next 5 or 10 years.
For us, when it first was announced that we weren't going to be in the MIAA, like anything else, we were devastated. We were a little shook. And we were like, oh my God, how can we not have local games? And it's going to cost us so much money. How can we handle this as a school, as a program?
And then you called me, and then the rest is history.
Absolutely. Let's find some games. No, he's telling the truth. I mean, we matchups he found for us, but winning and being consistent has now afforded us this last victory. I can't imagine. I can't even tell you how many messages I am with people wanting to help brand and raise money and give NIL deals to our players in each state, depending on what they're capable of allowing to happen. They can take advantage of. Now, if we had stayed in MIAA, I couldn't even participate with our kids.
Right.
So it was a blessing in disguise.
It was.
So being independent, now, Blake Woodby had an NIL deal and he was able to afford himself, who's going to Auburn, and then Mike Van Buren. So now, because of capitalism and opportunity and what it is, these young people have a chance, as long as it's done the right way and their parents are educated, themselves educated. It could really jumpstart or get them going in what it's going to take for you to secure financial security, to have literacy, to understand what the dynamic of being tax liable, the liability that comes with it, but the ability to earn money, and how do we educate them? You can get that at St. Francis. You can get it anywhere. But then if you're in the leagues or people mandate, they try to prevent the opportunity for that. Well, when
Right.
we went independent, the state allows it, the law, the country allows it, and as long as it's done appropriately, and that platform is there for us, and why not allow these young people to take advantage of it? And some families that otherwise might not have it, they can get this opportunity through this platform.
Yeah, if I'm a parent of a very good high school, Pop Warner football player in the 7th and 8th grade, and I'm touring schools, and you tell me about this opportunity, NIL, there's no competition. Who else could talk about NIL in your region? Nobody, right?
Absolutely. Let me tell you something about St. Francis outside of football program. It's known for its basketball.
Yep.
So Angel Reese came from St. Francis Academy,
Yep.
who played at LSU, was a Maryland national champion at WNBA. She was a first rounder this year at the WNBA.
Mhm.
Then Dante Carrington got drafted in the NBA, is playing with the Wizards, who's logging in the most minutes in the NBA right now. He played at Pitt for 1 year and got drafted in the first round. Then we had Chris Braswell, who got drafted in the second round. Chris Braswell got drafted third round. We had 3 major sports draft picks in the same year from one high school.
Same graduating class?
Yes.
Oh, that's crazy.
It's amazing.
I don't think that can't. I don't know if that could be top. I mean,
it has to be 2 first rounders, WNBA, NBA.
Yeah.
And then a second and third rounder in football for the same class.
Yeah, Angel's made a really big name for herself this year.
Absolutely. And she's also contributed back and is donating, and her brother plays basketball, and he's going to go to NBA next year. He's at Maryland. So for a small school, we do a great job of kind of producing not just the level of talent, but they also maximizing their earning potential. And they're maximizing the dream, living the dream of doing better for yourself and creating generational wealth.
Joe, listen, I just had this brilliant idea. It doesn't happen in this brain often, but this is a brilliant idea. So, Joe, we interview all these great coaches all over the country, and they have fantastic players to go off and do some big things. We need to get these players that have graduated on the screen with their high school coach. Interview them both at the same time.
That'd be cool. Yeah,
that'd be cool.
That'd be awesome. Yeah.
It would be cool to see Messay Hailemariam with Angel Reese on the same screen.
Nice.
And guess what? She's an athlete. And she was no pushover. So she would whoop some of our football players when she did it then.
Yeah.
So and then her ability, she changed the dynamic of how her and Caitlin have changed how the women's basketball is being how popular it's become and their ability to earn. Yeah. So she came from little old St. Francis. And then not to mention Chris Braswell, Baltimore raised, and Blake Corm, and then Dante Carrington, we call him Bub. I mean, he maximized. He was the youngest player in the NBA draft this past season. He only
Yeah.
did 1 year at Pitt.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, our school is a beautiful place. It's a beautiful, amazing platform,
Yeah.
and it's in a tough Baltimore City, but we produce some of the most amazing young people,
Right.
and they're gritty and tough. So I'm proud and excited to say, how about them Panthers, man? Panthers for
Yeah,
life.
I love visiting there, Larry. The high school, it's like half high school, half museum. They have the bed where Mother Mary Lang slept on in like 190 years ago, whatever. They have a Bible that they uncovered during construction. It's like a 200-year-old Bible that they have encased in glass.
Wow.
So it's really like a museum and a high school all in one.
It is amazing, and you can't understand or really appreciate it unless you come and tour it. So
Yeah.
maybe we'll do a show there when all
There
of
you
us
go. A
together. Why
remote
not that
show of
idea?
national
Yeah.
high school
That
football there.
would be cool, Larry. If you're ever in
Yeah.
the Northeast, we can drive down to Baltimore and take you to East Chase Street. I've been there a few times.
Yes, he has.
Messiah he has really good fundraisers. They're truly Baltimore's team. I'll go to their fundraisers, and the titans of the business community are there wanting to help them. It's really a great situation that
Listen.
the school has lasted so long, and the mission is as pure and as as fantastic as it's ever been. It's getting better and better.
Yeah. Joe, I've got this picture ready. Before I put it on the
Yep.
screen, I wanted to follow up with Coach on something he said a little bit earlier when he was talking about some of the players that's coming up through on in his trenches. He mentioned a player, and I remember as soon as you said his name, Coach, I remember reading an article about him that called him the #1 prospect in the country, and that's Zion Ely. Okay, so this quote that I got from this article says that, quote, he has a rare skill set that many in the college football world are obviously drooling over, unquote. What's the skill set they're talking about? Is it a high motor? Is it just a ability to get after it? What makes this kid so special?
They call it get off. His first step. He's such an amazing electric player off the being able to kind of beat the tackle off the edge. And then as he came to St. Francis, he did that, but he's fine tuning and creating a counter move from his natural ability to be an edge rusher. And a lot of people, like you said, value a pass rusher now because of the game. And
Yeah,
we've had a few guys, the Chris Braswells, the Yabi Anomas, the Damon Clowneys, and Deshaun Womack at LSU, Sam Green at USC. So we've known for that. And Zion is got all the attributes and tools to be as good, if not better, than some of those guys. And he's just raw as crazy, but you can't teach his length, his get off, his ability to kind of create pressure on on these tackles and to make you have to account for him from with more than one person. That's what colleges get excited about.
well, please tell me this kid is coming to the University of Georgia.
I wish I could tell you everybody is suiting him, courting him. Very humble. So we'll wait and see. I'm sure he doesn't know where he wants, but he's starting to see this platform, and having him on that stage has only enhanced what he's capable of doing.
All right, Joe, tell us about this photo.
All right, so this photo was taken game 2 of the season. St. Francis came up and played one of the top teams in New Jersey, St. Joseph's Regional High School. It was a really good game. As we talked about, St. Joe's was up at half, 21-17, and St. Francis shut him out in the second half, and the final was 31-21. But these are the 3 players on St. Francis, all headed to my new favorite college football team, Auburn Tigers, where my son is a sophomore. So I was able to pluck them off the field one by one, and we had this great shot of me plus the 3 future Auburn Tigers, and hopefully there'll be this time next year a couple more in that picture.
Absolutely. From where I'm facing, left to right, starting with to your right, Joe, Bryce Diaz. He's a senior. He's an athlete, just fast, explosive. Looks like a man child, but played both sides of the ball. The middle young man is the one that's a 2026, who's on Wayne Henry, who had the pick 6, number 12 in the IMG game. And then, of course, to the right is Blake Woodby, one of the top corners in the country, who's ran a 10.6 as a freshman in the 100, won the MIAA 100 as a freshman, speedster, but he's been with us for a long time, understands the game.
Mm-hmm.
And all of them have been with St. Francis since they were freshmen. So I mean, again, I mean, who would have thunk it? Three guys from Baltimore DMV are going to be competing in the SEC and the Auburn Tigers.
That's great. And you know what disturbs me? Whenever a team like yours or any team in general that is working its way up the ladder and becoming elite, all the haters come out and they always start the same couple of rumors that the kids are older than they should be, or the kids are recruited from outside the area. This is a perfect example of 3 Baltimore kids who made it great going through the St. Francis program. Talk about player development, man. From 8th grade through now, look what you've been able to accomplish with them.
Yeah, I mean, my coaches, Justin Winters, Ryan Burbank, Kendall Jefferson, Chris Brown, I can name them all. So these guys we've known since they were young, and we've been, developing them. And 10 of our defensive starters from the state of Maryland, 10 of our starters on offense from the state of Maryland and Baltimore area.
Well,
So
the good thing about where you're located, it's kind of like where I am in the tri-state area. You have New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, literally within 20 miles. You have that opportunity too if you need it. You're near Delaware, you're near Virginia, you're at Maryland, DC. You got a great densely populated area surrounding you if you need it.
DMV, that's what we call it, DMV football, and Baltimore City's highlighted. But absolutely, these young men deserve every platform like anybody else. And people are so, like he said, Joe, it's a misconception. Majority of our kids from our DC, Maryland, Virginia area and Baltimore. So look, if you're giving a kid a chance and they really develop themselves, give a platform. I don't care if they're from Bermuda.
Yeah.
You can't be angry at the fact that we do what we do and we're able to help any kid that wants that opportunity to become an elite and great player and then secure himself in education for free. I'm not mad at that. And you can say what you want, but there's nothing wrong with what we do every day. Absolutely not.
And we live in America, a land of the free, and anyone should be able to go to whatever high school they want and play for whatever coach they want. That's my attitude.
Amen. Absolutely.
Larry, have any last couple of comments?
Yeah. So one last question, when it comes to you guys, you played IMG several times back and forth.
Hey, Larry, there's only one team on earth that has beaten IMG more than once. It's St. Francis with 3 victories.
Yeah. So I was going to say, Coach, would you describe IMG and St. Francis as rivals now? Because you guys have played a number of times. You beat them more, like Joe said, more than one time. Would y'all consider yourself like heated rivalries now?
Yeah, it's an amazing rivalry.
Definitely.
And I'm sorry. I mean, it's just, I look forward to it. Our kids look forward to it. It's good for the game. And like, it's an amazing rivalry, but it's a great challenge annually to face each other. And we look forward to it. We want it to be years to come.
And I, as a scheduler of elite matchups, I like it because it's one less game I got to put together because I know it's going to happen every year. And we strategically put it at the end of the year, Larry, so it sometimes could be a de facto national championship game.
Listen, I think I mapped it out. Next year when you guys play, I think y'all ought to meet like halfway. Just come on to Valdosta. Both of you play at our stadium at Lowndes High School because I'd love to see you up close in person. And it just seems like a good compromise.
Coach, listen, remember the referees when you played at Lee County?
Oh, stop.
You don't want to do that. They're going to be just as bad down there.
That Georgia football by halftime, I couldn't even count how many flags went in there. But the tough part is we were winning by so much it didn't affect us like we should. No, let me stop. But Lee County was an amazing place to play, man. Those fans,
they're great.
That Georgia football.
Yeah,
and then that facility.
South Georgia football, man, it's up there at the top. I love it. I come down there. Larry takes me out to these barbecue places. I try stuff I've never had before in my life. We have a great time. They love their football. It's awesome.
It is.
Speaking of Lee County, there's a good chance that Lee and Milton may meet in the playoff or maybe even the state championship.
Larry, you know I come down every year for the Georgia High School Football Championships.
Yeah.
So that would be unbelievable if we see Buford and Carrollton in one game, right? And then Milton and Lee in another game. That's an awesome night of high school football.
Well, this particular year, I don't think it's possible for Buford and Carrollton to play in the state champ. I think they're on the same side of the bracket.
Oh, so it'll be the semifinals.
Okay.
But still, those two teams are those those two teams are vying for who's number 2 right now behind Milton in most regional and national bowls.
Mm-hmm.
So, Coach, one last question I have. What the heck are you going to do this week? It's your first bye week in 10 weeks. What are you going to do?
Man, take a breath and be excited. And I'll be honest with you, I'm starting to prep not just for this upcoming game like we always did, but to be honest with you, I'm always thinking about what it is that we're missing, what it is I can do, and then get these kids recruited to go to college. It gives me a chance to really go hard on the phone to make sure that all of our seniors are going to college.
Coach, you're still last question. I promise. I know I said that before, but you're still a really relatively young guy. You've had a lot of success in your coaching career. You ever take a glimpse at going to the college level or beyond, or are you just happy where you are at St. Francis?
I don't even call it happy. It's mission based, right?
Okay.
It's ultimately, I didn't, I have a beautiful daughter who's 16 going on 25 now. She's about to be 17, but at 3 years old, this angel had to fight cancer, and that's what brought me to Baltimore, and I haven't left since. So, of course, I've been tempted, and you kind of listen. Sometimes I embrace some opportunities, offers, but it doesn't quite feel the same to go to these levels as it does impacting young people from the 9th to 12th grade. So I can't say never, but I don't see it happening. I'm not young, I'm 51, so I'm on the other side of the century.
Listen,
Uh,
man, I'm 54. We're
so
young.
Hey,
Okay.
I
listen,
like
guys.
that.
I'm older than both of you.
Yeah. So to answer your question, man, the staff that I have here and us, we just enjoy, and it's almost like we can really impact more at being at the high school level than we can in college, because then you can only impact that one particular program.
Yeah.
So to answer you, I don't see it unless something insane happens. You never say
I
never.
hope,
God is in
dude.
charge.
I hope that never happens. I mean, I still chuckle when the former head coach left. The whole world was talking about how the program was going to die and it's done. They're never going to be good again. And look what you've done without him being there. So I can't imagine this school and this team without you. So I hope you stay forever. Basically,
I,
that's
I
my opinion.
appreciate that. And guess what? I wish I can take credit. I'm not smart enough, because if I was really that smart, I would have oodles of money. But I have grit, and then God blesses, and I'm grateful. So it's like you said, being gritty, being consistent, and trusting the faith that we all possess. But definitely at St. Francis, something is special that is hard to describe, and it's very fulfilling. It's rewarding. And I even talked to my daughter earlier tonight, and she's so proud. Daddy, you guys beat IMG. She's in Colorado bragging in her school about us beating IMG, because she got a chance to come to Duncanville with me and
Nice.
this team. She was on the sidelines, and she saw how we didn't do so well. You've come a long way. My own child said that.
Yep.
So,
That's
and,
great.
and yeah, to see that. So, I don't see it happening. And then
Yeah.
again, I wish I was smart enough to bottle it up. I just have the faith and literally work hard. Good old fashioned hard work will pay off, and that's what's happening here at St.
Absolutely.
Francis.
Yeah, hey, winning cures a lot of ailments. So you keep winning.
Yes, sir.
In my opinion, you don't really have a lot of competition down there when it comes to, if I'm a really good 7th or 8th grade football player, and there's nobody down there that's playing the schedule that you are. You brought up the NIL prospects and those opportunities. So if you're a downtown Baltimore kid, born and bred, why leave the zip code if you don't have to?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Well, Coach, as always, listen, every time you get on the screen with us, I always learn a lot. It's very entertaining and fun interview. So thank you so much for making high school football fun for us fans as well.
Thank you both for having me on and giving a chance to showcase this wonderful school and these young men and coaches that are really helping, and our administration and the nuns. I mean, it's a multitude of people that really go for, that work really hard with this program. So I thank you for giving us the opportunity to be able to talk about it.
Absolutely. So, guys, if you've enjoyed this interview with Coach Hailemariam, check us out on our website at nationalhsfb.com, because the conversation about high school football doesn't have to stop at the end of this video. It can continue on the website, and we'll see you there. So for Joe Maimone, I'm Larry Godwin. Coach Hailemariam, You've been watching another episode of nationalhsfb.com. We'll catch you guys next time.
All right.